There is a version of you that the world has never seen, and it terrifies you to think about it. Not because it is weak, but because it is powerful beyond anything you currently believe about yourself. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor wrote secret notes to himself in the middle of the night. Notes he never intended anyone to read. Notes that would later become one of the most powerful books ever written. He was not writing to inspire the world. He was writing to survive himself. And buried inside those private pages was a warning that most people today will never hear, and even fewer will understand. It is a warning about silence, about darkness, about the parts of your life you are ashamed to show anyone. Because the men who became legends did not become legends in public. They became legends alone, in rooms nobody saw, doing work nobody applauded. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why. Right now, somewhere in your life, you are performing. You are showing people a version of yourself that is polished, confident, and in control, even when inside you feel like you are falling apart. This is the quiet epidemic of the modern world. We have become addicted to being seen. We post our workouts before we finish them. We announce our goals before we have earned them. We seek validation before we have built anything worth validating. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, understood the danger of this long before social media existed. He ruled an empire, yet he chose to keep his deepest thoughts hidden, written only for himself in the dead of night, far from applause. Seneca, another great Stoic mind, warned that a man who needs an audience to feel strong has not actually built strength at all. He has only built the appearance of it. Have you ever noticed how the moments you brag about are rarely the moments that actually changed you? The real transformation always happens somewhere else. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere dark. Somewhere nobody is watching. But here's what almost nobody realizes about that silence, and why it might be the most important discovery of your entire life. The first principle is this: silence is where character is built, and noise is where character is destroyed. Every time you speak your goals out loud before achieving them, your brain releases a small reward, the same reward it would feel if you had actually done the work. Psychologists have observed this pattern for decades. The praise you receive for announcing a plan can trick your mind into feeling accomplished, even though nothing has actually happened yet. This is why so many people talk about becoming disciplined, but never become disciplined at all. They already got their reward. They already got their applause. So the pressure to finish quietly disappears. The Stoics understood this instinctively, long before modern psychology gave it a name. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who later became one of history's greatest philosophers, taught that the tongue should move only after the character has already been shaped, not before. Imagine training for months without telling a single person. Imagine studying, building, healing, or transforming completely unseen. No congratulations, no applause, no audience. Just you, alone, becoming something new in the dark. That is where identity is forged. Not in the announcement, not in the applause, in the silence. Be honest with yourself right now. How much of your effort lately has been for growth, and how much has secretly been for attention? This single question separates those who transform from those who only pretend to. During his years on campaign, far from Rome, Marcus Aurelius spent long, freezing nights inside military tents, writing thoughts meant for no one but himself. He was surrounded by war, disease, and betrayal, yet none of that appears as complaint in his private writings. Instead, page after page, he simply reminded himself who he wanted to become. No audience, no praise, no one checking his progress. Historians believe he never intended these writings to be published at all. They were survival tools, forged in isolation, meant only to keep his mind steady when everything around him was chaos. And yet these private, unseen pages eventually shaped the minds of emperors, soldiers, writers, and leaders for the next 2,000 years. The most influential book in Stoic history was never meant to be read by anyone. It was written entirely in the dark. That is not a coincidence. That is the pattern history keeps repeating, whether we choose to notice it or not. The second principle goes even deeper. What you train in private becomes who you are in public, whether you intend it to or not. Think of your mind like a forge. Every time you sit alone with a hard task, resisting the urge to quit, resisting the urge to explain yourself to someone, resisting the urge to seek comfort, you are hammering a piece of raw metal into something stronger. Nobody sees the forge. They only see the finished blade. This is why so many people feel like frauds even when they succeed. They skipped the forging. They only borrowed the shine. Seneca warned his students that comfort is the quiet poison of greatness, because comfort convinces you that avoiding discomfort is the same thing as peace. It is not. Real peace is built through repeated confrontation with discomfort, until discomfort no longer controls you. What would you do if no one was ever going to find out? Would you still train? Would you still show up? Would you still choose the harder, quieter path? That single question reveals more about your future than any goal you have ever written down. Because the version of you built in private, unseen, and unapplauded is the only version strong enough to survive real pressure later. But there's another layer to this, one most people never uncover until it's too late. Picture a young soldier under Marcus Aurelius, cold, exhausted, and afraid, forced to keep marching long after his body wanted to collapse. No one was cheering him forward. No crowd, no recognition, no reward waiting at the end of that specific night. Just discipline, forced into existence one exhausted step at a time. Multiply that soldier by thousands, night after night, year after year, and you begin to understand how empires were actually built. Not through inspiration, through relentless, unseen repetition. Now bring that image into your own life. The version of you that wakes up early when no one is watching. The version that studies when no one is checking. The version that trains, heals, and rebuilds quietly, without narrating every step to the world. That version is not weaker because it is unseen. It is stronger because it was never dependent on being seen in the first place. Most people will never build this version of themselves. Very few people ever truly master silence. But if you are still watching this, some part of you already senses that the strongest lesson is still ahead. If timeless wisdom like this is helping you become mentally stronger, subscribe now, because every day we explore ideas that most people hear once and forget, but very few people ever actually live. This channel exists for those rare few. Now let's continue, because the next principle changes everything. The third principle is the one that quietly transforms a person from the inside out. You do not become strong by declaring strength. You become strong by repeatedly proving it to yourself when nobody else is measuring. This is identity transformation at its deepest level. Every time you keep a promise to yourself in private, your brain quietly updates its own self-image. It stops asking, "Can I do this?" and starts assuming, "I am someone who does this." That shift is invisible from the outside, but it is the single most powerful psychological change a human being can experience. The Stoics called this becoming the same person alone as you are in public. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's worth is measured by what he pursues in private, not what he performs for others. Imagine for a moment becoming that person. Waking up without needing motivation, because discipline has already replaced it. Facing hardship without needing sympathy, because your identity no longer depends on being comforted. Achieving something significant and feeling calm instead of desperate for applause, because the applause was never what you were chasing. This is the monster the title of this video refers to. Not something violent, something unstoppable, Someone who has trained so long in silence that outside noise no longer has power over him. Which version of yourself are you becoming right now, today, in this very moment? Because that answer, more than any single goal, will determine everything that happens to you next. So how do you actually build this in real life? It begins with one simple shift. Stop announcing, start proving. Choose one goal this week that you tell absolutely no one about. Not your friends, not your family, not social media. Let it exist only between you and your actions. Each night, instead of asking what you accomplished for others to see, ask yourself a quieter question. Did I keep my word to myself today? That single habit, repeated daily, rewires how your identity is formed. Next, build what the Stoics called a private hour, a block of time each day devoted entirely to growth, with no recognition attached. Reading, training, studying, healing, building, anything that strengthens you without an audience. Over weeks, this private hour becomes the foundation your entire identity stands on. Finally, whenever you feel the urge to explain yourself, defend yourself, or prove yourself to someone else, pause. Redirect that same energy into your private hour instead. Let your results speak later, quietly, without needing to say a single word. This is not about becoming secretive or isolated forever. It is about building an unshakable core first, so that when you do show up in the world, you show up already whole, already proven, already unstoppable, instead of desperately searching for approval you were never supposed to need in the first place. But this path has enemies, and most people underestimate every single one of them. Comfort will whisper that rest is the same as peace, when really it is often just avoidance wearing a softer name. Doubt will creep in during the silence, asking if any of this quiet effort even matters if no one sees it. Fear will remind you of every past failure, hoping you associate effort with pain instead of growth. Loneliness may follow, especially in the early stages, when you stop performing for others and start building only for yourself. Distraction will offer endless comfortable escapes, disguised as relaxation, disguised as harmless breaks. Ego will tempt you to announce your progress too soon, trading long-term strength for a short burst of praise. And the desire for validation, the deepest enemy of all, will constantly pull you back toward performing instead of becoming. The Stoics did not defeat these enemies by ignoring them. They defeated them by expecting them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that difficulty was not an interruption to his path, but the actual path itself. This is the mistake that ruins most lives, waiting for the enemies to disappear before beginning. They will not disappear. You move forward anyway, quietly, repeatedly, until moving forward becomes who you are instead of something you have to force. Picture two futures. In one, you continue seeking approval, announcing plans you never finish, performing strength you never actually built. In the other, you disappear into silence for a while, train in the dark, keep promises only you know about, and return one day as someone people barely recognize. Not louder, not flashier, just undeniably, quietly powerful. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that the best revenge is to not be like your enemy, and perhaps the best transformation is to stop performing for a world that was never watching as closely as you feared. So ask yourself honestly, which future are you currently building? What are you doing right now, today, when no one is checking? If this video reached you at the right moment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment one single word that describes the version of yourself you are ready to become. Because somewhere right now, in complete silence, your strongest self is already waiting to be built.